Well, hello and welcome to the Profit Express. I'm Tim Healy. I'm inviting you to join me each and every week so you can be prepared to win the battle for business. And hey, as always, thanks so much for sharing some of your time with me today. And today's topic is not going to disappoint. It is one of my absolute favorite topics, and that is listening. And specifically, it's really about a question today. And the question is for you. And that is, are you listening? Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me? Well, I know you could probably hear me, but really, are you listening? And this is a pivotal life question, not just an important question to ask ourselves in business with sales and customer service, but it's an important question to ask ourselves in all relationships, personal and professional. Now, it gets me thinking about one of my favorite quotes from the late, great radio legend, Larry King, who said, "Nothing I'm going to learn will come from what I say, but rather, if I'm to learn anything today, it will come from what I listen to." Wow. So think about that. Now, communication as a sales performance coach is one of the absolute foundations of what I do. But we can't have communication. We can't have conversations in life and business without listening. What's happening if we don't listen? We're just talking at one another. We're just exchanging and volleying words. See, listening isn't just the absence of you saying something. It's about you being engaged. It's about you caring about what the other person is saying. So now here's an important thing. You say, well, hey, all right, Tim, are you listening? Am I listening? Now, when I ask that question of sales professionals or people I come in contact with, a lot of people will say, yeah, no, I'm a great listener. Now, I've been asking that question for many years. It's a topic that I cover in training all the time. I've written blog articles on it. And when you ask people, are you a good listener? People will always say, oh, yeah, of course I am. When it's been my experience, 20 plus years, most of us aren't good listeners. Now you say, oh, Tim, you're not being fair. Well, okay, I don't know you personally, but what's happened is, especially in the digital age, in the age of technology, we become more distracted. Our attention spans have shrunk. And typically people are more interested in what they're saying than what the other person is saying. It's human nature. So think about this. Let's test ourselves to find out whether or not we're a good listener. If you're at work and your boss is frustrated with you, chances are you may not be listening. If you've gotten into or have been getting into arguments with your spouse, you probably really are not listening. And if you're not closing deals in sales, then I can promise you you're not listening. So instead of having our ego get in the way and just say, oh, yeah, I'm a good listener, ask yourselves those questions. Is your boss frustrated with you? Are you arguing with your spouse? Are you not closing deals? Are you not connecting with clients? If you're answering yes to any one of those, then you know what? You're probably not a good listener. And it's about being objective. Because again, communication is the one facet that brings us all together, personally and professionally. But you really can't have communication, you can't have a conversation unless you listen. And especially in business, being able to have a conversation with a prospect, with a client is absolutely critical because that is the one area that allows us to connect emotionally. And there's huge, huge benefit to that. Now, I said it's one of my favorite topics. It is. I've trained on it so many times. I've written about it. I'm speaking about it. In my belief, anybody can become a better listener. It's a habit, okay? We can get better at it. I'm going to share a few techniques with you, okay? So that's the good news. You can, if you want to, become a better listener. Why is it so important? So again, I'm trying to convince you why you should invest the time in becoming a better listener. Here's a truth of human nature. Every and I mean every human being, and I didn't say customer, I didn't say spouse, but every human being on the planet wants to be heard. Now, let me repeat that for you in case you weren't listening. Every human being on the planet wants to be heard. If you're not sure about it, then take it back on yourself. Think of those times in business relationships, in business conversations, or in personal relationships and personal conversations when the other person was not paying attention to you, when you knew that they were not listening, when their mind was a million miles away. How does it make you feel? Doesn't make you feel good. They're not connecting with you. It can sometimes, depending upon who it is in the conversation, can be insulting. So every human being on the planet wants to be heard. So keep that in your back pocket and remember that each and every day. And one of the keys that I want you to embrace every day is as a result of listening to today's show is, am I listening? And if you could ask that one question, and please don't underestimate the power of that question, because it's on the surface, logically, it's a very simple question. Am I listening, yes or no? It's not that easy. If you could get into the habit as a result of listening to the Profit Express today, of reminding yourself and having that filter, if you will, of saying, hey, you know what, I've got an important meeting today. I'm doing a training, whatever it may be. Am I going to be present in the moment? Will I be listening to what my boss is saying, my customers are saying, my coworkers are saying? Think about that, just reminding yourselves of the importance of listening. It's probably something you may never have done, or certainly have not done. I'll go on a limb here, not with any real consistency or regularity. So I've talked about questioning yourself, hey, am I listening? Why is it so important? Because every human being on the planet wants to be heard, all right? And if you're not listening, we don't have communication. If you're not listening, we don't have conversations. And if you don't have a conversation, you don't connect personally or professionally. So now here's a few very direct and to the point tips that anybody who cares enough can start using today, and become a better listener. 3, okay? Here they are. I hope you're listening. Number 1, start off by asking great open-ended probing questions. Now, again, I'm assuming we've heard of closed-ended questions, open-ended questions. The closed-ended questions elicit the yes-no response. Those aren't very valuable questions. The open-ended questions, somebody has to describe and explain what they're thinking, which is where you want to be, because then you're getting, invited into their world. You can get an understanding of who they are and how they feel, which is what you want to be at, which is where you want to be. So you want to ask great open-ended probing questions, right? So that's number 1. Now, key number 2 to becoming a better listener. After you've asked the question, shut up. And I really genuinely mean that. Ask a great open-ended probing question, then shut up. That is key. What you don't want to do is think about your next question. You don't want to think about something else. You want to be present in the moment. If you are asking somebody a question, be curious enough to want to hear what they have to say. Because that means you're engaged in the conversation. You are actively listening, not just nodding your head, yep, sounds good, yeah, No, that's baloney. That's not genuine. That's BS. If you ask a question and you shut up and then you're there listening, wanting to hear what they have to say, being genuinely curious about what they have to say, that's key. So you ask the great question and then you shut up and then you listen. Now, what happens is people have questions. They may come prepared with questions, and they'll ask them, but too often they're not so genuinely interested in what the person has to say. And listen, if you're not interested in what they have to say, then don't bother asking the question. Because one thing you can't fake, one thing you can't BS is genuine. And as I said a little while ago, in this digital age, in this social media age, in this age of, texts and emails and DMs. We are communicating less. We are listening less. We are distracted more. That's bad news. It's alarming. It's even depressing because a lot of us are becoming worse communicators, if for no other reason, because of technology, because of the distractions. Now, here is what could be your superpower in business, your superpower in life, in all your relationships, personal and professional. Be smart enough to become a really great listener by asking great open-ended probing questions, then shutting up and being genuinely curious to listen to what they have to say. Now, here's another, it applies more in business technique. Little old school. I do it all the time. I do it basically every day. If you're having a conversation, if it's on the phone, if you're having a conversation face-to-face, you're sitting across from somebody's desk, or even if you're at a networking event and somebody's talking to you, take notes. That's right, take notes. Pen and paper. Or even if you do it electronically, I don't care. Take notes as to what they're saying. Because that very simple gesture of taking notes does a number of things. The person will pick up on that and say, wow, they're interested in what I have to say. They're paying attention. So in so doing that, you're making an impression on them. Most people don't do that. And then if nothing else, we can't remember everything that people say in an important conversation. So I love the notes that I've created to go back to as a very valuable resource. And you might say, well, Tim, at a networking event, how do you possibly take notes at a networking event? Trust me when I tell you, I've done it a bunch of times. You always, I know we don't use business cards nearly as much as we used to, but there's always something to write down. And I can't tell you, now you want to talk about really involving somebody, connecting with somebody? I've jotted down a note of what somebody said, whether it was on a business card or I just got a napkin. And then people will actually they'll pull themselves in and they'll look at you like, wait, what are you writing? This can become your superpower in business. I don't want to make too much of a promise how great your personal relationships will be, but that's another side benefit. I can promise you that. But I don't want to get down too far into that side of things. But if you approach business with prospects, if you approach business with your clients, and you say, you know what, I can separate myself from 90% of those out there. 90% of the other business owners, of the other service providers, of the other sales professionals, by listening consistently, and always ABC, always being curious as to what they have to say. Because if a human being gets the sense that you are genuine and you care about what they're saying, they will share more with you. And then you're communicating, and then you're having a conversation, and then you're connecting. And you're slowly but surely separating yourself from the field. You're separating yourself from the competition. That absolutely can become your superpower. And anybody can become better at listening if they want to, if they see the reason why they should be doing it. Remember, as I said earlier, every human being on the planet wants to be heard. Okay, there's your entree. It connects you with people. What more reason do you need? And it separates you from the competition, who, as we speak, is getting worse at listening, which is good news for you and me. All right. So this is what I'm going to leave you with as we talk about my favorite subject on the Profit Express. Are you listening? I'm going to give you three more fantastic reasons why you need to be an active listener, why you need to be genuine, why you need to always be curious in the conversations that you're having. When you listen, relationships will be formed. When you listen, problems will be solved. And when you listen, there's money to be made. I don't know of any more 3 better reasons to give you as to the importance and the power of listening than those. So I want to thank you for listening today to the Profit Express. And please remind yourself, ask yourself that question because it keeps you humble. Hey, am I listening today? What can I do to become a better listener? It's real simple. Ask great questions, shut up, listen, be genuine, and be curious. And as always, thanks so much for sharing some of your time here on the Profit Express. And great new episodes like today's on listening get dropped and downloaded every Wednesday. So stay tuned. Follow me on Instagram. Follow the show at The Profit Express. On Twitter at Profit_Express. The Profit Express page on Facebook as well. Thanks for listening. And as always, let's continue to win the battle for business.